Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with Simrin Jhangiani. Simrin is a Director Marketing at MetricStream, which is the world's largest independent provider of governance, risk, and compliance solutions. She is also product marketing lead for MetricStream ESGRC product. As a former New York University student, she was she had a minor in corporate social responsibility, and she is passionate about helping businesses make risk-aware decisions around ESG. And also, Simrin has an extensive business and marketing background, having worked as a strategy consultant and at KPMG and being a business owner of a sustainable fashion brand. Simrin, thank you for joining us for our Risk Management Show podcast interview today.
Thanks so much, Boris. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So I believe we will have a very thoughtful conversation on the topic aligning ESG with technology and with links to GRC world. So Simrin, could you tell us what does ESG stand for and why has it become such a hot topic in recent years?
Sure. So ESG stands for Environmental Social Governance. It's been a topic in the recent years and sort of evolved from like the corporate social responsibility aspect, which is when I was back in university, that was kind of the hot topic at the time. And ESG has sort of evolved to encompass more than just CSR. So it's really become a hot topic if you think about all these different movements that have happened in the social space, such as women's rights, Black Lives Matter, all these sorts of things that have popped up. People have realized that social aspect of an organization is very important. You've also seen it become a hot topic because of all the environmental issues that have been happening with global warming, with carbon emissions of factories, realizing that our planet is slowly, disintegrating in a way, a very morbid word, but the truth. And so as organizations and businesses are expanding and growing, it's been a very big topic of conversation and a need at this point in order for them to change their environmental outlook, and so on and so forth. So I'm very passionate about it. I love it.
Fantastic. So can you explain how ESG can be aligned with the company's overall business strategy?
Yeah, so I think ESG needs to be really incorporated within a strategy. So whether that means how your employees are commuting to work is like one aspect, what how your office building is functioning, whether you're using solar panels on your building. You have so many different metrics that you need to think about when it comes to just the governance aspect of your organization, even. When you look at your social aspects as well, how many women do you have on your board? How many people do you have of color within your community at your organization? Diversity and inclusion efforts. How are you looking at candidates as you're interviewing candidates? How are you making communities within your organization in order for those people to feel supported? There's so many ways that it needs to be a part of your strategy. So whether it comes from a hiring aspect, so although now your organization has X number of employees, as you continue to grow and look at adding people, how is HR looking at ESG is one aspect. How is your office of your CEO even looking at growing your offices worldwide? Are you looking at shared office space versus purchasing an entire building that maybe only 3 4 people come into? So not only from an environmental aspect but also from a social and a governance aspect as well.
Right. So can you also explain what are some of the challenges that companies face when it comes to implementing ESG initiatives? Because we hear also there is kind of greenwashing happening in the world and a lot of kind of fake projects. And how can people can overcome this challenge?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to benefits of a business, sorry, challenges of a business, you kind of hit the nail on the head. There are so many different challenges that exist. A lot of them can be, excuse me, lack of standardization. So if you're not mapping all of this information to a standardized framework and measuring and reporting that ESG performance, it can make it difficult for companies to sort of compare their performance to peers and communicate their progress to their stakeholders. Another challenge that you've seen is sort of short-term focus. So you have a lot of companies that are just looking at financial results, which can make it challenging to actually create a long-term ESG strategy and initiative. So if your long-term plan is to have more female employees at your organization, that needs to be a strategy, a very long-term strategy within your organization. And it may not have an immediate financial impact, but it will have a very big impact as ESG evolves within your organization. Another challenge can be limited resources. So ESG initiatives can obviously require a lot of resources internally, which may be difficult for smaller companies. And to be honest, I've seen it even difficult within large companies. People are realizing they need to create ESG teams within their organization. ESG has really only been a term around in the past, I'd say 10 to 15 years at maximum. And as that term has sort of evolved, how are you hiring the right people to lead those teams? And it becomes difficult. So having that limit of resources to also be mapping all that information to a framework becomes challenging. And then that leads to sort of my last point of limited expertise as well. So you don't have that many experienced people within your organization that know, like, what is TCFD, what is GRI, what is SASB? It's an acronym soup, ESG is, including ESG itself. So as you sort of look at this and trying to teach people about ESG, you need to sort of build that expertise internally. And so sort of in order to overcome some of those challenges, you need to be able to standardize those and standardize the measuring and reporting aspect, and then aligning ESG initiatives to those business strategies, allocating, like sufficient resources, and then of course, building internal expertise and or hiring people who have that expertise as well.
And let's dive deeper in the connection between ESG and the technology, because you are working for a technology company. And can you explain us how does technology play a role in all this ESG?
Yeah. So as I was kind of mentioning before, you have all these standards and frameworks that exist, right? So and as your organization grows, you are mapping all that information within your organization to multiple standards and frameworks. You're maybe even pulling in, risk assessments and trying to use like something like EcoVadis or Sustainalytics to understand how you benchmark next to your peers. So there's all these different things that exist in the ESG world to create this ESG score that you could have a really great score, or you could have a very medium or very low score. And obviously the goal is to improve that score and to sort of be a top person or organization in that realm of, and compared to all your other organizations. And so as we look at that, technology can really help you understand that you can make this much simpler and quicker for your organization. If we think back to my last point on, the limited resources being a challenge, having a technology can allow for you to continue to reach that ESG goal that you have with the limited resources. So for example, a solution that can take all the different all your information and map it to all the different frameworks becomes really easy at a click of a button. You can just answer all the questions, and then all those informations go into those frameworks. So if you're a global organization that you need to match standards for certain regions, for example, if your organization in the UK wants to align to TCFD and your organization in the US wants to align to SASB, all the information can align to both and map against both, which is really helpful. Additionally, a technology can help as you sort of create the goals that you want to achieve. And in order to create those goals, having a technology, you have a good dashboard that allows you to see, this is my current posture when it comes to risk, ESG, compliance, all those sorts of things. And then you start at this benchmark and you want to create goals that allow you, and using that data, allow you to actually achieve those goals. Without using a technology, it's really hard to do that. And most of the times you're stuck in like a giant Excel document that has lots of data, that has a lot of room for human error. And this sort of eliminates that aspect of human error, and then also just, quickly gives you outputs, which is great.
Fantastic. So if we hear all this conversation in the risk management space, specifically around ESG, there are also some talks about connection to enterprise risk management. What are your thoughts on the links between ERM and ESG?
Yeah, I think it's a huge topic of conversation, and I'm really aligned to the fact that ESG is an enterprise risk. And the reason for that is, if you think about what enterprise risk is, it is anything that risks your enterprise in whatever way. Not being compliant when it comes to ESG becomes a problem for the office of the CEO, becomes a problem for board of directors, becomes a problem for anything in relation to enterprise. There are so many ways that ESG can be integrated into ERM as well. So you have like risk identifications. A company can identify the ESG risk through scenario analysis, stress testing, horizon scanning, and then other techniques as well. But it can help a company understand the potential impact of ESG risks on their business and prioritize all those risk management activities. You also will need to do like risk assessments, so a company can assess the likelihood and potential impact of the ESG risks on their business, sort of using quantitative as well as qualitative methods. It can really help understand the materiality of all those ESG risks and prioritize their responses accordingly as well. And then, of course, just general risk management. Companies can develop that risk management strategy and controls to mitigate those ESG risks through diversification, insurance, operational changes, and it can help a company reduce that likelihood and impact of ESG risk on their business. So I think it would be very hard to make a case against why an ESG risk is not an enterprise risk, in my viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we discussed this all major topics, and why is it valuable to have ESG as part of GRC strategy. So maybe we have only 2 minutes. If we summarize it, if someone who is listening to this interview would like to walk away with 1 or 2 major takeaways, what would it be?
Yeah, so I think having ESG as a part of a GRC strategy can provide a few different benefits. So one of them, as I kind of mentioned, is improved risk management. So integrating that ESG into your GRC strategy can help an organization manage and identify their ESG risks effectively, period, full stop. You have better compliance. So by integrating all of your ESG risks and considerations into your GRC strategy, you will know that you're compliant to applicable laws and ever-changing regulations when it comes to ESG. And then you're also, having these industry standards and best practices. You will have enhanced reputation for sure amongst your peers as people are deciding to invest in organizations similar to you, whether it's in the stock market or not. If you go onto Yahoo Finance today, you can see a publicly listed company's ESG score, for example, and many people are investing based off of those scores. So in order for you to improve that score, you need to have this all involved within your risk and compliance strategy as an organization. And we've seen just at MetricStream alone that any company that has a GRC solution with an ESG solution is far more successful when it comes to creating good and actually attainable goals within their ESG journey, and it's really critical. And then of course, I think the last point I'd probably make is increase stakeholder engagement and sort of long-term value creation. So as you think of ESG and GRC, the reason why we even went into creating an ESG solution at our organization is we are a well-known GRC platform. You want a customer like who uses a GRC platform to be able to integrate all those ESG risks into their GRC solution. And it makes logical sense that those two units talk to each other versus having an ESG point solution that just does a reporting piece and that's kind of it. And then that data is not being able to be seen by your GRC tool that you're using at an organization. And so it's very critical that as you look at ESG, and that your risk operations compliance teams, all those teams are talking to one another. And what I mean all those teams is they're talking to the ESG team, because all of those teams at some point will be needing to use a tool that can all, aggregate and create that data collectively.
Right, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Simrin, because I know we have been working with MetricStream to share your content. You produce so much very popular content on all topic of risk management. So I know that our customers, our members of our community will hopefully want to speak with you guys in the future and to understand what's going on in this world of different risk management and compliance initiatives, especially ESG. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Boris, for having me. It was a pleasure to speak to you today.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.